Well.
You really are turning that into an art form.
Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to this fine radio program. It's Smoking and Toasting. It's show number 84, and we are brought to you by the fine people at B&B Butchers and Restaurant at 1814 Washington Ave in Houston and in the shops at Clear Fork in Fort Worth. We will be live at B&B on next week's show number 85. We will celebrate with our dear friend Jeremiah, who's going to be like in rare form, I assure you.
You know that guy's a party.
Well,
he's just a party in one person.
So we've been trying to line up the right time to get him back on the show because he's always welcome. He's that guy, you know. And plus they're a sponsor. He can come on anytime he wants, and he always brings great stuff. And we've been trying to do this, and we just haven't been able to make it work. So he's going to be so raring to go now that we've got one lined up for him to be back on. He will be a force to be dealt with, and we'll be looking forward to that.
Yeah, and we're real selective about who we have on the show. I mean, you have to actually be fun to be around, and you have to bring samples.
Right. That's the whole point. So speaking of samples, so Jeremiah and I have been talking about doing a rum show because he is such a whiskey connoisseur and has done such an amazing job of curating the whiskey selection at B&B that normally when we're there, we're tasting, whiskeys, whatever he's got on his mind that's in stock and that he's been talking about. But we've been talking about maybe doing a rum show, and so I said to him, we were texting back and forth this week and talking about next week's show, and I said, do you want to do the rum show we've been talking about? And he said, and I quote, yes, I've got some really rare stuff I can bring. So now I'm totally psyched.
Drum roll, please.
Yes, so very excited.
So the name of next week's show will be
The Rum Show.
The Rum Show, or What to Do with a Drunken Sailor.
What is it? How do you deal with the drunken sailor? How to deal with the drunken sailor. I like it. Well, welcome to Smoking and Toasting. It's show number 84. My name is Cruz. My erstwhile partner is Ian Barry.
That guy's crazy.
On the Wheels of Steel, we have Adam Andrus, who is engineering the show. I've got a little bit of a head cold today, so it actually works out as decent enough timing because we're going to be doing something very special in today's program, and that is that Ian is finally going to get his opportunity to no longer be held back by yours truly.
Oh, man, I've been waiting for
You've been waiting for your opportunity to basically kick me to the curb and show whose show it really, really is. And so this is your Now, while I was in California, which you were there part of the time, we want to talk about that.
We had fun with that.
Yeah, but I was out there for a little longer than you were. And so while I was away, Ian had a chance to get with a couple of guys that we already know and love, and we can't say no to these guys when they're in town and have an opportunity to be on the show. Mattias Horseman from Hendrick's Gin, and our good buddy Glenfiddich Dave from Glenfiddich Whiskey. And so Ian got a chance to do a number of segments with them, and we'll be bringing those segments to you on this show. So, like I said, you're unfettered. You will not be held back by me for the duration of the program today. So, those guys are so much fun. I'm really looking forward. I have not seen these segments, so I'm really looking forward to it.
I do want to point out, like, as much fun as we make that joke, that eventually you're going to be holding me back and I'll have to do my own thing.
Well, this is your opportunity. That's what I'm saying.
I do want to point out that it's the first time I ever did that
the
by
first time
myself.
you flew solo, yeah.
Ever.
Yeah.
And those guys made it easy. They were so fun.
They're good guys. See, I knew you'd be in good hands with those guys and Adam, so I knew you'd be okay. But I did text Adam kind of worried, like, how's it going? But he said it went great.
So while you were out of town?
Yes.
Did you smoke anything good?
Well, yes. However, let me just back up 2 steps and talk to you about the Torano Hogshead Toro.
Ooh, tell me about that.
Let me start with the most important part. It's a $2 to $3 cigar. Okay?
All right.
Did I mention that cigar costs about $2?
For the Torano Hogshead?
Yes, for the Torano Hogshead, yes. It's a Nicaraguan cigar, believe it or not, for $2.50. Nicaraguan, Dominican, and Pennsylvania tobacco all combined. So it's, it's
all over the place.
Quite an interesting combination.
It's multicultural.
It's multicultural. It's a pretty rustic-looking cigar, a little rugged. That's okay. I've had some rustic-looking cigars that have been fantastic. The pre-light draw on this baby was kind of non-existent. Like there really wasn't an aroma on the pre-light draw. Not much that I could pull out of there anyway. On lighting, a kind of a pleasant tobacco flavor, and that's pretty much it. Some burnt paper flavors in the first third. You ever do that thing? And I do this because I won't be paying attention. I'll just be talking or reading something while I smoke or whatever, and all of a sudden you go, What's that new unpleasant flavor? And I discover that I've left the band on too long and it's starting to burn. Yeah, right. Okay, well, this did this in the first third when it wasn't really close to the band. So, that wasn't necessarily good. By the final third, there was a little bit of pepper, some nuttiness, but not much. Almost zero complexity. It's mild to medium, but I did not get the hoped-for mild creaminess. Now, here's the thing. I wasn't expecting much. Did I mention it's about a $2 cigar?
Right.
Yeah,
okay.
I wasn't expecting much, but I was kind of hoping to get that little bit of creaminess that you get on a good mild cigar. You know what I mean? And I guess the problem that I have with this cigar, the Torano Hogshead Toro, and by the way, pretty sure this is only available through Cigars International. I've never seen it in a local tobacconist, and I think maybe now I know why. But anyway, the problem with the cigar for $2 is that the JR Alternative Edition Limitada substitute for the Romeo and Julieta, it's one of my kind of go-to everyday cigars. It's about $2.40 a stick, and it's really good at that price. I mean, it's not...
You've given me a few of those.
It's not a $10 cigar. Right. It doesn't pretend to be. But wow, at $2.50, I mean, it's like well worth the price. And it's an enjoyable one. If you're... I have a tendency to smoke those if it's a little windy outside. I feel like I'm not going to get the full, impact of a $10 or $12 cigar or even a $5 or $6 cigar. It's just a good one, but there's enough flavor. It's enjoyable enough that I can enjoy having a good cigar. So with this cigar at a few cents cheaper, price to quality, I'm going to go about a 4.
Okay.
It's not unsmokable, but really, when there are other options, why bother?
With notes of burnt paper.
Well,
and dog hair.
In fairness, I didn't say dog hair. In fairness, the burnt paper didn't last long. It was a very brief. I was like, "What is that about?" And it did have some nice sort of core tobacco flavors to it, but there was no complexity. I mean, it was just as straight ahead. And it's funny because I went back and reread on Cigars International the description, where they talked about it having creaminess and nuttiness and a hint of, and I'm like, I don't know what cigar they smoked, but obviously someone slipped them something else when they were doing the description. So, I honestly, for a $2 cigar, it's really kind of hard to complain. In fact, I'd have gone ahead and given it a 5 if I hadn't known there were just better $2.50 cigars out there. So
let's just say sub $3 because that has
sub
to be
$3.
That's the lawnmower range.
Yeah, exactly. It's a dog walker. It's a lawnmower. And for those unfamiliar with the price to quality, a 5 means you get exactly what you pay for. So I feel like if some of those other cigars that I mentioned might be a 5. Right. At $2.50, then this definitely wasn't a 5. This is definitely
it didn't rate
4.
like the Black and Mild that I reviewed.
No, but see, there you had such a difference between the enjoyment level and what it costs, right? Right. If this cigar had been 50 cents, I'd be raving about it.
Right.
You know what I mean? So anyway, there's by the way, I wanted to talk about that because I actually had so many good cigars. You and I got a chance to sit, out in back of the house where we were staying around the fire pit and smoked some great cigars.
Man, I enjoyed that.
But I thought I'm always coming on the show and raving about a cigar, and I thought maybe people think that I'm not, that I just think everything is good. Yeah, you know what I mean? So what about you? Did you smoke anything interesting this week?
Actually, yes. But a lot of what I smoked this week were cigars that I've already had quite a bit of.
Right.
So on my way to work today, I had a bit of a drive.
Yeah.
I lit up I have an old vehicle, by the way. It's got like 220,000 miles on it. Right. So I don't care if I smoke a cigar in it, right?
Right.
The only people that suffer from that were the people on the elevator on the way up here.
That's good.
And I have a picture of a cigar on my shirt, so you should already be warned.
Yes.
But so anyway, I lit up Rocky Patel Reserve, and it was a beautifully constructed cigar. It was the let me give it the Private Cellar Reserve, and
Oh,
this is
private
the
seller.
Torpedo. Right?
Yes, that's a well. I started to say that's a good cigar, but tell me what you thought.
Well, let me tell you about it. First off, it is dark. Like the wrappers, it's not real oily wrapper, but it's
Right.
a very dark wrapper. It's a dark. Let me see, what does it say? Connecticut broadleaf Maduro. The construction of the cigar is beautiful. It's got this purple label on it. It's really classy looking, right?
Yes.
Really like almost royal looking private seller reserve thing. It's a Nicaraguan binder, Nicaraguan fillers. I lit it up. It has this green pepper burst right when you light it up that just fills the back of the mouth. It's a beautiful thing. This cigar was chocolate and chocolate. The pre-light sniff was chocolate, like dark chocolate and mocha kind of cocoa kind of thing.
After my experience, I'm just thrilled that it had a pre-light stuff. And it was
There were no notes of paper fire at all.
That's good to know. That's good to know. It's like a John Mellencamp
No carpet
song.
mold, no paper fire on this cigar. So, but and so like sometimes I do this when I'm driving because I got to like having a car with a sunroof. By the way, man,
that's nice. Yeah, you just open it up and let the smoke go out.
And then when you know the ash is about to fall, you just stick your hand straight up,
And whoosh, off it goes.
Right there it
And
goes.
although I did try that once in a convertible and got ash all over my back seat.
because it swirls
Yeah,
back.
it swirls back around. So yeah, but
Aerodynamics are a hell of a thing. So anyway, I lit this up and I got this green pepper burst, and it smelled so chocolatey to start with. It actually took me aback. I was like, "What is going on here? That's strange." And then, like within like 2 or 3 puffs, that green pepper started settling into a nice little spicy complexity on the back of this. Nice. And this cigar was this chocolate bomb. It was wonderful. I didn't even have anything to color my palate. I was drinking water with it.
Yeah.
And so I feel like I got the full flavor of this thing. This was definitely in the medium to full range, probably on the lower side of full as far as the intensity of cigar goes. I enjoyed every moment of it.
That's great.
As a matter of fact, when I pulled up here, I still had the last third of the cigar left. And by this point in time, the cigar had loaded up to this crazy chocolate bomb. I just enjoyed this tremendously.
when you get a cigar that you enjoy that much, it's a wonderful reminder of why we like doing this.
Right.
Why it's so much fun to smoke a great cigar when you just get all that flavor and that complexity, and you get a chocolate bomb or one of those that just like really, really lights you up. You brought me, I'll review this on a future show, but you brought me the one of the La Flor Dominicana Andalusian Bull cigar. Man, that thing was good. Like I could talk about it for the rest of the show. It was so good. But when you have a cigar like that, and it sounds like that's the kind of experience you had with this Rocky Patel, it just reminds you why this is so much fun.
It was wonderful. As a matter of fact, I had about a third of it left when I pulled up here, and I was early to be here. As a matter of fact, you called me and said, "Hey, I might be running it a little close." I was like, "Hey, I'm almost here. I'm just going to pull over and smoke my cigar." I actually pulled into the parking lot, realized there's no shade.
Yes.
So I pulled up the road here. You passed right by me, by the way.
I didn't even know.
I pulled up the road here and parked on the side in a little shady spot and finished my cigar because it was so good and almost made it late to the show.
Thought I smelled something good as I drove by.
Right? Yeah. So I highly recommend it. I smoked it until I was almost late to the show, if that tells you anything. And I think this is about a $10, $12 cigar.
That's about right, yeah.
Price to quality, like just the wonderful chocolate bomb of this. I wanted to have a Belgian with this, by the way. That would be so good, like a Belgian double or something like that. Would be so wonderful. Those fruity flavors plus the chocolatey would been just wonderful. I would put it price to quality easily at a 6. Like this was
nice.
6. Fantastic. Construction was great. I did tend it once. I'm not entirely sure if that's because I was sticking it out of the sunroof or not.
Could be, yeah.
But it tended like instantly and burned nice and even all the way down to the end. Fantastic cigar.
That's awesome. I want to take care of a couple of things real quickly. First of all, I want to thank Rigo Fernandez and his wife of the Buena Vista Cigar Club in Beverly Hills for allowing us to do the show there last week.
That was
If
fun.
you haven't heard show number 83, we had such a blast doing it, tasting some California beers and just really enjoying some cigars. And what a treat it was to do the show there. Pretty much got Rigo talked into being on the show next time if we do a repeat. But he had he and his wife managed the shop by themselves, so he's almost got to make arrangements if he's going to stop and do something like be on the show because he's to the customers.
Yeah, the
So-
shop filled up while we were there, too.
Yeah, it totally did. And it was a great place, and we recommend it highly. It's on Santa Monica Boulevard in Beverly Hills. If you're in the Los Angeles area, whether you live there or you're visiting, either way, go and support this guy because he's doing a great
He had a
thing.
great selection of whiskey, too.
Yes, he did. He had
Great
great.
selection.
The whole bar was was really good. And I noticed he had, by the way, that Havana Club rum
He did.
that we enjoyed with Manny El Cubano Lopez when we were out at his shop. So, okay, next week we will be live at B&B with our buddy Jeremiah, as we mentioned. That's going to be a great show. We invite you to come out if you want to. It'll be around 1 o'clock Central Time. We'll be in the upstairs on the patio area where we can smoke a B&B and enjoy a fine cigar and some rum, and it's going to be a lot of fun. And we'd like to send a huge thanks to Glenfiddich Dave and Mattias Horseman from Hendrick's Gin for being on the show today, and a huge thanks to you, Ian, for handling that on your own. We'll be back with Ian's segments.
We're going to see how he did. The judgment's up to you.
Ian's segments with gin and whiskey coming up next. This is Smoking and Toasting. Thank you guys for listening. Facebook Live, you have to blow your nose in between the segments. There's no graceful way to do it, you know.
And haggis.
It's always nice to have two people from the company on at the same time because it's like we're family anyway, but it really does sort of exemplify the family nature of the company. It's really cool.
That's pretty cool.
Especially if we like each other.
Yeah, you're right.
To be fair, most of the brand ambassadors, we pretty much all get along really well. So
Even from different companies, it seems.
Yeah.
Everybody
Yeah.
just gets along with everybody.
yeah,
Of course, it's hard not to get along if you're, drinking. And
yeah. If you're drinking and you got to be social to be in this.
everyone's
world,
like, no, here, try this. Okay.
Can you imagine if you worked in the booze industry and you just didn't like to hang out with people?
Nah, I don't think that'll
You're not
work.
going to last long.
Yeah, I know a couple of them.
You'd be ineffectual at your job. I'm ready to roll whenever you are.
All right, let's do it.
I love that intro. It makes me drool a little bit every time I have a little Pavlovian response to that. So welcome to Smoking and Toasting. This is a radio show about craft beer, craft liquors, fine hand-rolled cigars. We're brought to you by B&B Butchers and Steakhouse, located 1814 Washington Avenue, and now open at the shops at Clear Fork in Fort Worth, Texas. So we're going to have to make a road trip up there pretty soon. You guys been out to that location yet?
No, I'm going to be up in Dallas in about 2 weeks, so that's definitely on my list.
Yeah, I'll be there in about 3. So
You are hearing the voices of Mattias Horseman and David Allardice. Mattias Horseman from Hendrick's Gin, David Allardice from Glenfiddich, here joining us today. What brings you guys around?
Howdy.
how's it going? Wonderful day, isn't it?
We're here for a specific reason in Sugarland.
In Sugarland.
Yeah,
I actually work out in Sugarland from time to time. Tell me about it.
Yeah, we're doing. Glenfiddich is going to be having what we call the Experimental Dome, which is a massive structure that we carry around the country, where we get to showcase Glenfiddich in a slightly different light, Scotch whisky in a slightly different manner than what you would expect. So we're doing draft cocktails using these 3 whiskies that I brought today.
Draft cocktails.
Yeah, so it's all draft delivery. We work with a company called Icebox, and these guys are really tremendous, and they basically take their skills from the bar to the masses. So they bring the high quality ice, the high quality knowledge, the execution of craft cocktails, and they bring it to things like food and wine festivals.
So there's, it's funny that you say that because it seems to be a trend using better and better whiskeys and drinks in general, better distillates in general to make better mixed drinks. Because there was for a long time the thought process that this is way too good to mix with something.
Yeah. That is the traditional train of thought when it comes to especially single malt Scotch whisky. For some reason it's okay to mix Irish, it's okay to mix American, it's okay to mix Japanese, but single malt Scotch is like, oh, don't touch it.
There's a mystique about it,
God
right?
forbid you should actually enjoy yourself when you're drinking Scotch whiskey.
It's sort of an oxymoron, isn't it? Because you're looking at it and you're saying to yourself, well, it's okay, I want to make something great, but I don't want to use great stuff in it. It just doesn't quite make sense, does it? So why would you not use something
And
so
I
delicious?
totally get it. I totally get it. Because better ingredients just make better. Well, there's a famous better ingredients make better pizza. But I think they owe me for that now. I've said that like 3 times on the show. But yeah, better ingredients make for a better drink. That's why we have this whole rash of craft drinkeries now. That pop up, like here in Houston and other places across the country. You have these bartenders that go way above and beyond your standard, I'm just going to give you a whiskey and Coke kind of thing. So it's really interesting to see that.
Yeah, what I'd add to that is that the way that I think about single malt Scotch whiskey going into a cocktail is we're just very fortunate to have a spirit that's that versatile that you can absolutely enjoy it neat, splash of water, rocks, or you can enjoy it in a cocktail. So with a lot of spirits that go into cocktails traditionally, you can't really say the same thing. You know, quite often that spirit is a little bit harsh on its own.
You're using that drink to mask that harshness.
Mask, yeah, but definitely enhance. If you do it right, single malt Scotch whiskey can make the best cocktails you can imagine. But you have to do it right, and you have to be working with people that are skilled, because each single malt has such a specific flavour profile that you have to know the 14, you have to know the 12, and you can't just say, I know Scotch whiskey and this is going to work. You got to know each whiskey pretty intimately to actually be able to pull flavours together that make sense.
So what kind of drinks are you going to have on tap?
We're doing a very classic Scotch and soda, otherwise known as a highball, with the 12-year-old. And what that does is you're basically just mixing the whiskey with soda water, ice, and a garnish, usually a lemon wedge or a grapefruit twist. And what you're doing just by using soda water is you're lengthening the drink, you're stretching all the flavours out, and it's much more refreshing. So especially if you're in Texas or you're in Florida or somewhere that's warm, and you don't necessarily crave neat Scotch when it's 80, 90 degrees outside, this is a way you can take the whiskey and adapt it into something a bit more refreshing without losing all the flavour. You actually kind of stretch the flavours out into a slightly different type of drink. Then we do an old-fashioned classic with the 14, because this is aged in a little bit of new oak, which is very similar to how a bourbon is aged. So we kind of stole the idea to mimic a bourbon and use it. It really works really well in an old-fashioned. And then we have a very unusual and experimental drink using the IPA cask, which is a fairly new whiskey.
I tried that at the not the World Whiskey, but the Houston Whiskey Social event last year. That's a delicious whiskey.
This is what I call a breakfast malt. Mattias beat me to the punch, and we're drinking a little gin and tonic with Hendrick.
I always like to start the morning out with a tea at least. So
a little tea, a little G and T.
G and T. Nice to see you guys.
But I say jokingly that this is like a breakfast malt. What I mean by that is that, to start the day off, this one is a nice way to ease into it.
Nice.
It's really sweet, and it's quite malty.
And you don't get a lot of the burn.
There's not a lot of heat,
especially.
No, you don't want too much of that, do you?
I said burn. That's a little rough, right? There's not a lot of heat. I like your way better there.
We find a way to massage that a little bit.
Well, it's whiskey. You're going to have some of that anyway. You expect it. But no, I agree. There's times so it's funny because I almost always, if I'm just drinking whiskey, I almost always have a cube of ice in it. Mm-hmm. I like the ride. I like to taste it when it's cold because you get different flavors. And then as it warms up and the water melts in, you get the same effect as if you put a few drops of water in there. And it usually takes me a while to go through it.
Absolutely. And especially in Texas, you don't even need to wait that long for
it to
not
warm
back
all.
up. Yeah.
Not at all, right?
Yeah.
And Cruz gave me actually a whiskey glass that has this little cutout in it. I should have brought that thing. It has a little cutout in it that you can set your cigar in. So you have your whiskey and your cigar sitting right there.
Of course, you would have that. Yeah. Amazing.
It's pretty awesome.
Cigar never leaves my hand.
That's right.
I like it.
That's pretty fun. So yeah. And I agree. I like. Why not mix up a good whiskey? In something. The other night, just for giggles, I poured my Michter's into my ice cream.
That's good.
And it was delicious.
Of course it was.
I was eating a little bowl of ice cream. I thought, missing something.
Yeah,
this one.
get it.
That's great. And I think you raise a good point, though. That's what bartenders are for at the end of the day, is you have to trust them. They're there to be brand ambassadors for every spirit they have behind their bar. And, it's a tough job to be a bartender these days. I think some people take it for granted, but you have to know in-depth knowledge about every single bottle that's behind there so you can mix it correctly.
And what to mix it with, yeah.
It's everything has such different flavors, whether it's between 3 bottles we have here or 300 you have on a bar. That's a lot of information you got to learn there.
Now, so just changing perception a little bit. Everyone expects, okay, you don't mix scotch, right? That's what they always say. And then gin, how often do you see people just drink gin by itself? Like, you almost always think of it as a mixer, even though it is delicious by itself.
Gin's gone through a bit of an up and down in history, through whether it be, it was really popular for many years, then it sort of has gone down again, and it's back up, and, it's all to do with cultural shifts. And I think people's perception of flavor, back in the 70s and 80s, these big rock stars are coming out, if you don't smoke the same cigarettes we do, you're not as cool as we are. And they wanted to imbue the flavor onto something pretty, bland. That's when vodka came about, because gin had its heyday and was drunk by all of the older upper class people. And then sort of, they came up this younger crowd mixing stuff with vodka, making all these flavors. And now they realize they can actually get amazing flavor from gin. And so that's when this gin resurgence has happened in the last couple of years, and so I think people are getting on board with it.
Well, so I think the vodka issue, became so popular, and probably still remains popular, because vodka inherently doesn't have a lot of flavor.
Yeah, I mean, it's the tofu of the spirits world.
The better the vodka is, the less it actually has in it.
Yeah,
that's kind of how it works.
Yeah, like I said, vodka's the tofu of the spirits world, but then gin's a finished dinner. Like you can put any flavor you want on there, and it's going to be great. But then at the end of the day, this is, a beautiful color palette that the master distillers have painted this beautiful picture with.
Well, see, so what you have with the gin, too, is the history of mixing gin, and especially one that's been around. How long has Hendrick's gin been around now?
Developed in the late 90s, and we launched in 2000. So
it's been around long enough, and gin's been around long enough to where that's been such a mixed drink forever. We already have preconceived notions, this goes with this all the time. You can have a gin and this, or, Tom Collins, all those different things. We don't necessarily think of scotch and in the same light. So it's interesting to see that happening now.
Every liquid has an unscripted story, and I think as brand ambassadors and bartenders, we're just there to tell that story. So at the end of the day, it's kind of a nice little poetic analogy to go and actually sit and have a drink is more than just imbibing a beverage.
Speaking of stories, I love the way you guys get into making these making the whole experience happen. It's so much fun. For instance, the Hendricks, I was on your website. It's got such an interesting kind of old world vibe to it, and you pull that across so well when we're talking. And then David, you are so modern with your approach on this. Like, you're always on on Facebook and on social medias doing that, and you're so good at that kind of thing, keeping it out there. By the way, just watching your Facebook, I want to go party at some point in time with you. We have to do. You look like you're just having a great time.
It's so funny. I've definitely created a perception.
You got a persona now
that kind of ties in David Allardice with party. I sent a message to. We have a group on WhatsApp. I won't tell you the name of it. That's private. But I sent a message to the group to say, "Hey, just landed in Houston. Looking forward to seeing y'all." And Rebecca responds back with, "Party!" Like, yeah, you're not wrong. But this one as well, like the two of us together.
Oh, yeah, we both live in Chicago, actually. So it's
oh, wow,
yeah,
okay.
and we're only like 8 blocks away from each other as well.
It's dangerous.
Funny how that worked out. So
that's awesome.
Yeah, it's good.
So I noticed on your Facebook posts, you have everybody saying, "I am David Paradise." Tell me a little bit about that, because that's funny.
Well, it seems a little cheesy, right? Dave Paradise.
Cheesy's good though. Like, you can't do a grilled cheese sandwich without cheese.
I guess the reason I stuck with that is because it was just a story, a real story that happened. Basically, I was in a club one night, shocking, and was introducing myself to this girl, and she was like, "Oh, what's your last name?" I said, "Dave Allardice." She said, "What, Dave Allardice?" And she burst out laughing. I was like, that's funny, is it?
Why is that funny?
And she's like, "Dave Paradise, that's a great name." And I was like, and then I was thinking about it later. I was like, no one ever understands me when I say my last name. And so I was like, you know what, I'm just going to run with that. And, always looking for a name to go by for music, right? Because I've went through so many cheesy names over the years. I was called Amsterdam Sam for a while. Because I used just names that I lived in Holland when I was 15, and I came back when I was 17, and one of the lads just got wee Amsterdam Sam, and then I went by that for a while. So I was like, all right, I need a new name. So I've had some bad ones.
And they call the English funny talkers. Jesus.
So anyway, Dave Paradise that's the origin of the name. It was kind of like a misunderstanding, and I just stuck with it. So I changed the S to C. And with the videos, I started doing these videos called Fiddick Friday. I wanted to force myself to do something weekly, because I started a YouTube channel a year ago, and I find it hard to motivate myself to continually put something together. And so I decided if I call it Fiddick Friday, I have to put a video every Friday. So every Thursday at night, I'm editing, and I'm usually up till 2 in the morning editing a video. And it usually just a short clip, but we were sitting in Austin, and I said to the guys, like, I'm going to record you. I want you guys to be on the intro for this first Fiddick Friday. And I was like, what do you want me to say? Everyone gets really nervous, right? When we turn the camera on.
Right.
I mean, I'm no different sometimes. And it's like, well, just say your name. I'm, Jonathan Wingo, and this is Fiddick Friday. And then Mossy's sitting next to me. He's like, no, that's not the crack. That's not the crack. In his classic Irish accent. And he's like, no, you need to say, I'm Dave Paradise. This is Fiddick Friday. No matter who it is that's doing it. So they started it off.
That's pretty fun.
It started off, so it just caught on as kind of a fun thing, and now I get people to say it. If we happen to be out drinking on like a Wednesday, Thursday night, I'll just, whoever I'm with, just be like, yeah, let's do it, and we'll get it posted on Friday. So that was just a little bit of fun.
Nice. So I think we're going to take a little short break here coming up, and we'll talk more about the social media and everything. It's one of those things that's really important, is just being consistent with it.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. We'll be back here on Smoking and Toasting.
Amsterdam Sam.
That's
Do you know what the one between Amsterdam Sam and Dave Paradise? Actually, I went by Dave Allardice for a long time, just my name, shocking. It was Shag Nasty.
Nice.
Oh, dearie Dave.
This was a time when
Shag Nasty.
I didn't think, I was so naive. I was like, nobody knows here what that is. It was a Scottish friend in Dallas. He was like, Shag Nasty. So I went by that for a while, got a few gigs and everything. And one day I was just like, people know what that is.
Yeah.
I can't go by that anymore. I was like,
it really, depending on where you are, brings up different things.
yeah. I think most people didn't know what shag was, but I think nowadays it's pretty common knowledge.
Right? Yeah.
I mean, this is like 10 years ago.
Did you have the timer on? I looked up and it was 0. I don't know how long that was.
I did.
How far over did we go? Just for my own curiosity.
Good. 2-3 minutes.
Okay, that's fine.
Yeah,
It's my first time to do it by myself, so.
Love that. I didn't even see the timer. God.
You guys can make fun of me if you want. I'm okay with it.
I gotta say, man, I'm just so enjoying this right now.
Yes.
Man,
so
it's
good, right?
fucking morning time.
This is really good.
It's a great one to get into, especially, warming up the palate with scotch is great.
It's tough.
But at this hour of the morning, seriously, your palate
It can be a little big.
All you probably had is a cup of coffee, and that already messes
Yeah.
with your senses.
Yeah.
And then maybe some breakfast.
So what you're saying is the Scotch and the Irish whiskey fight a little bit.
Usually.
That's funny.
But well, supposedly, like your
Sorry, I just assumed with coffee you'd have
I love
to
that.
have-
Yeah.
your palate's supposed to be alive in the morning and just go downhill from there, right?
Yeah, it depends what you eat for breakfast too. I mean, everybody, like you had the
Cholula.
omelet this morning and stuff,
With
and
hot
Cholula,
sauce.
like done, like an hour of your palate gone, and it's kind of funny. Yeah, I do tastings with people, and they walk in and they're like, "Oh, sorry, let me just get rid of my gum." I'm like, "Seriously?" No. I'm like, "You're a bar manager for a really nice bar." Okay, cool.
This
It's like,
all
"Let me
tastes
make
like
you- I'm
cinnamon.
gonna make you a great herbaceous drink. You're gonna be like, "It's so fresh." It's airwaves, me.
All right, you guys ready for next?
Yeah.
It's not really that necessary to break it up, but it makes editing and inserting it in later much easier.
Trying to think what my nicknames have been in the past.
We'll come up with something on the show, I'm sure. Keep pouring drinks.
Yeah, ready?
by
you
the end of
seriously-
this, we'll have something good for
Are you
you.
seriously struggling to remember, or you just can't name them?
Yeah, I can't name him.
Excellent.
Last name's Horseman, so bit of a difference.
All right, everybody, welcome back to Smoking and Toasting, a podcast about craft spirits, craft beer, and hand-rolled cigars. We're here with Mattias Horseman and David Allardice.
Again?
So I want, that's awesome. I want to back up just a hair. Okay, so we have this teacup. Tell me what's in this teacup.
This teacup, we started out this morning with a lovely little Hendrick's tonic with a freshly sliced cucumber.
So what you're saying is I'm getting my vegetables in the morning.
Absolutely. Well, definitely one of your 5 a day for sure. It's a wonderful drink to start out with, especially for something like this. Just warms up your palate, just warms up your life a little bit. And of course, fresh is best when it comes to it. So cucumber just livens that drink up.
It's really nice. The cucumber, like you smell it when it's coming up towards you. The getting that in your palate already.
Yeah,
really
well,
nice.
Hendrick's is from Scotland, obviously. We're from William Grant. We're curiously infused with rose and cucumber, and so that's like the key for us. Is just everything we do is unusual, highlights a little bit of the uniqueness about everything, and there's nothing more unique than sitting here with you guys in this amazing little group of people. So I think it's just nice to celebrate that in a very unique way.
Yes, it doesn't linger either. It leaves it a little dry on the finish, which is really nice.
Yeah, it's a wonderful little cocktail, especially if we're going to be tasting a couple things today.
These cups are fantastic.
Yeah,
too.
this
the
is
same on both sides. Let me put that right up.
It's
to
a
the
little
camera.
little project I've worked on over the past year and a bit. It's called the Curiosity Cup.
The Curiosity Cup.
Yes, spelled TACUP, obviously. I travel around with it actually on a holster on my belt that's specifically designed for it. And TSA love me at the airports. It's kind of funny. They call me Teacup in Chicago O'Hare now.
Quick draw with the teacup.
Yeah, it's great. There's one guy who I almost missed a flight. He got me through in time. So I was like, oh my God, I got to get you one of the cousins of the Teacup. So a couple of the agents have them now, which is good. But I'm writing a book about martinis, and so everywhere I go, I try a different martini, and I always ask the bartender, I'll take a Hendrick's martini as you wish. Princess Bride is my favorite movie, so As You Wish is obviously one of the highlights from that movie. But I feel like I get to know a bartender a little better by how he likes to drink it, rather than how I like to drink it. Because I've tried over 100 different styles of martini from around the world. And at the end of the day, I have a list on my phone of, I think it's 127 bartenders right now that have made me a martini and their recipe for it. And it's just interesting to go back and sort of see how they've done that. And to see just the slight variations and who has the passion points and
There is no substitute for experience.
Exactly. And this puts everything on a level playing field. A good friend of mine's an amazing bartender, but he started working back in a dive bar once he had a kid, and he made me one of the best martinis I've ever had, but he put it in one of those really shitty rocks glasses that like explodes after you put it in the dishwasher. And then I went to a really like 5-star, it was a 2-star Michelin restaurant like 20 minutes later, and they made me a really awful martini, but they put it in a beautiful crystal glass with the lemon. And I was like, man, I preferred the other one. So this puts everything on that level playing field. So yeah, it's purely about taste, which is nice.
Cool. That's pretty fun. So David has poured us which one did you pour? The IPA cask?
IPA, yep. India Pale Ale.
This would be the Glenfiddich IPA cask. Now we tried this
Do you want to pass this around?
at the Whiskey Social event last year and enjoyed it tremendously. So I'm glad to be revisiting this. Tell me about it.
Yep. So this is, if you can see that there, it's called India Pale Ale Cask. Basically, this is what we call the first edition of our experimental series. And basically what happened was we decided we wanted to do something with IPA, and we collaborated with as a local brewery called Speyside Brewery in about 29 miles from the distillery. And we ended up experimenting, failing miserably, as you always should when you experiment. And eventually we found the right level of hops that we needed. Basically, they had to go super heavy on the hops in order to get characteristics pushed into the wood.
To even get it to cut through.
So we brought the beer to the distillery. We put it into our traditional whiskey barrels, which are American oak ex-bourbon barrels. The beer would rest in the IPA, but the IPA would rest in the cask for about 4 weeks. The beer comes back out, it's mellowed out, it's actually quite drinkable, it's quite nice. Very drinkable, actually. It was a delicious beer.
Do you guys bottle that?
It's bottled, but it's under license by the brewery, Speyside Brewery, and you can only buy it in Scotland, so I keep meaning to bring some back, but usually when I get a hold of it, it doesn't make it out.
I was going to say, that would make the tasting interesting.
It doesn't make it out of the country, yeah. But yeah, then we have these seasoned casks. We take the beer out, we put the whiskey in. The whiskey was already aged for several years in an American oak barrel. and then it goes into the IPA cask.
So you're just finishing it in the IPA
yeah,
cask.
it's an IPA cask finish, exactly. For those that are listening that are familiar with the term finishing, it just means that you've basically taken your whiskey from a traditional whiskey cask and then transferred it into a different type of oak in order to give it a little bit of a different character.
To bring it down to the base level, that's a little bit of the icing on the cake.
Basically,
It's the same cake with slightly different icing.
it shouldn't, in my opinion, it shouldn't. If it's a port cask finish, if it's a sherry cask finish, if it's a beer cask finish, it shouldn't taste like that thing. It should just have elements of that
Right,
flavour in
right.
there, or whatever the type of oak is. It's going to give it a different profile. But if you do it well, it should just have that little extra layer of flavour. It shouldn't be dominated by that cask.
That's actually what I find with this a lot, is it's a one more level of interesting, and it's just a little something. The oak finish on this, by the way, is very big too.
It has layers to it, right? Which I find single malt Scotch should have.
There's an odd, a little bit of butteriness on the finish that I taste too.
Yeah, cheers. Let's get in there.
It's the nuances sometimes that make a drink, isn't it? When you're tasting it.
Yeah, it's got a little bit of the fruitiness that you get from Glenfiddich malt whiskey, especially in the 12-year-old, and then it's carried through into this one. But it's got layers of creaminess to it. I think when I taste this, I get a little bit of a hint of a sweet kind of soda, like a cream soda, and then it's only when I've tasted it and I've breathed out that I get any real sense of the beer. You get a slight citrus note, but mostly you get a little bit of that kind of maltiness. But it doesn't. I don't really get any hoppiness from it.
No, but it has a little bit of a bitter twang to it that you don't generally expect, and I think that's what I think the hop is bringing to it.
Well,
But it has that creaminess, and to me, like I said, a little bit on the end, and this might be a little influenced from our tea earlier, but there's a butteriness to the finish that on the retrohale, when you breathe out, that you really kind of experience at the very back of the tongue. That's really interesting to me, and
Yeah,
then
I mean,
the oak dryness that I really enjoy.
That's the bottom line, is that it's interesting and it's different. For people that like the 12 or the 15 and they come and taste this and they're like, it's not really for me, that's fine. When you experiment, you're going to get people that love it and people that don't really love it. But the fact is that this is pushing the boundaries of what single malt Scotch can be, and that's the whole point of it. It's just to try and be different.
Well, yeah, and to take Scotch, which traditionally you just use in generally wine barrels, and to do something different with the beer barrels and things like that, just try different stuff.
Yeah.
I think that's admirable.
It's all about pushing the envelope, really, isn't it? Continue to developing our industry.
Yeah, because otherwise it just gets stale.
Yeah,
and
stagnate.
And you know, we're looking at a new audience, a new generation that's coming through, and we find that, you know, through studies it shows that the older clientele that drink Glenfiddich typically stick to the 12 more so than the younger generation are trying the 14s and the IPAs and the higher end whiskies. They're the ones that are experimenting more. So that actually ties in perfectly with the idea that we should be more experimental, because the younger generation that's coming through, that's who we have to appeal to.
Now, the last time we hung out, we had a conversation, and we were sitting at the bar, and you said to me, I believe the 14 is probably the perfect drinker in our lineup. And I simply said, prove it.
And how was the bottle?
Going.
Yeah. That was an interesting Uber home anyway. But no, I found it interesting. I actually find that I agree with you on this, because the 18 is a little too delicate, you know, and also a little more pricey. So depending on your price point, the 12 is a standard. It's really good, but it's not as interesting as the 14. And so I have to agree with you on that.
And
Challenge accepted,
do you know what?
and also proven true.
You know what? There's a lovely element to the social aspect of drinking that I positively have fallen in love with, and that's that every moment of every day is different, right? Yeah. So like last night I sat and had the most beautiful martini. It was a very standard martini, but to me it was exceptional, because that's exactly what I wanted at that moment.
Yeah.
But tomorrow night probably is going to be a little different because we'll probably be in a club with Dave Paradise.
Well, even Paradise.
Who knows? Maybe Amsterdam Sam will make an appearance too. But
Let's hope not.
you know, it's funny how you mentioned the amazing iterations. You know, I have pretty much the full lineup of Glenfiddich at my house as well, because I've been a fan for years, and I call on different things for different stuff. So actually, when I applied for my job with Hendrick's Gin, I cracked open the 12, and as I submitted, I had a dram of the 12. When I got my first interview, I moved up to the 14. And then the next interview, when I was getting on, I had the 15. Finally, then I had the 18. And on my last interview, after I came back, I was like, screw it, I'm opening the 21. So I opened the 21, I had a dram. And then I saved the extra special thing for when I actually got the job. And that was a celebration.
So you did a vertical to
celebrating along with my life, and I'll always have that connection
fantastic.
to Glenfiddich, which is lovely.
Well, you know, the other thing too that I find about this is, listen to us, we're just talking about drinking stories, but not drinking stories and like, oh, I was just so hammered, because that's BS. But we're talking about sitting down and enjoying company, enjoying moments, enjoying memories that we tie into this as well. That's one of my favorite parts about this whole society.
Absolutely. You know, I think it's always interesting. Could you imagine if we could listen to the tales that empty glasses could tell?
Yeah, right.
It would be incredible.
Frightening.
Yeah.
Absolutely
but
frightening.
it's some of the best things in the world. So
Awesome. Well, that the Glenfiddich IPA cask finish is quite nice on the palate. I'm going to keep experimenting with this and researching it as we take a short break here. We'll be back very shortly with more Smoking and Toasting. Cruz does that. It just rolls off the tongue.
I usually, you know, we all have our favourite cocktails or favourite drinks that we fall back on, but I usually fall into bed with our newest thing at the time. So when that came out, I was all about it. That was all I would drink. And the same with the 14, and that's kind of how it goes for me. But I'll tend to typically come back 15 is my...
Oh, 15?
Yeah. 15
I have...
is my typical...
that's my
that much
desert,
left
that's
of my
desert island
15.
whiskey.
It's the one that it satisfies, but you don't have to be in a specific mood for it. You know, it's like it's almost the equivalent for me for a beer would be a Pilsner or a lager that, you know...
I have a bunch of Kolsch in the room, by the way.
Kolsch, thank you, the same.
Yeah.
You just don't need to be in a mood for it, and it just works every time.
If you're around later, I turned the hotel room into a disco. So
It's got what's it called? A robe? The robe after party?
I have robe parties everywhere I go, every hotel, but they fucking hate me. But my God, it's fun.
How do you get all the robes?
I call them every day. Extra 3 robes.
Really?
I have 6 in my room at the minute.
I'll bring my own. I have one in my
I
room.
had at last when we went down to San Antonio, there was 50 people in the room that night.
Oh, brilliant.
It was fucking ridiculous. Excuse my French. Yeah, it's a good thing that's not on air. Yeah,
We can edit that
I was
out
getting
of the
lucky in the bedroom. It was a fun night. I had plug-in disco lights you can screw into light bulbs, so
That's
they actually.
fantastic.
It's 3 robes and a step ladder.
I'm just trying to picture your room right now. I'm just trying to picture.
Oh, he has video.
I think I have
Show
a little.
him.
Yeah.
Shit.
God,
Oh, that's absolutely fantastic.
he brings the music in the party. I'm just like the production guy.
Yeah, the last time we did it was in San Antonio, and I ended up my
That
white
was
robe ended up burgundy.
Oh.
By the way, the last time I was there when you were DJing, I'm sorry, I was like, we got to EQ this. A
No,
little
it was
bit.
actually it was interesting because you were spot on, obviously, but I'd never heard anyone say that before.
It'll come back on. Hopefully, wait a minute.
Oh, that's hilarious.
Yeah, it's awesome.
That's also going to be tonight
Yeah.
and tomorrow.
I'd say tonight's probably the game because it's Saturday, so
When
we're
do
going
you
to
leave?
finish out Wednesday.
Yeah, we both leave Wednesday.
Oh,
So,
my
yeah.
gosh.
Dangerous.
I'm headed to LA on Wednesday.
Nice. What's going on?
Well, we're going to do a Smoking and Toasting and probably a couple episodes out there.
Nice.
So that'll be fun. I have never been to LA, so I'm going to wander around for a day.
Give you some recommendations for places to go.
Please.
Yeah, it'd be great.
Please, because like I said, I will wander around.
That's
Cruz
what-
was like,
that's-
well, I'll be working. I won't be able to hang out with you. I was like, grown man, I can figure this out.
No, yeah, there's some great spaces out there. It's like you're talking about social media. Like, you know, Dave's got the music for mine, and for me, it's travel. So it's like it's very interesting to live that life on the road. I traveled over 20,000 miles in March.
Oof.
7 states, 5 countries.
Holy cow.
Yeah, we need to talk about that.
Yeah, it was ridiculous. Didn't get a single day at home. It's nice.
Not a.
But I mean, hey, home fucking United Lounge at the airport is pretty nice.
The thing is, though, like, people look at that and they're like, oh, I don't know how you do it. You look back one day and you'll be like, okay, I'm glad I did that, I'm over it. But
Yeah.
so many good adventures.
Yeah. Traveling gentleman.
Because then when everyone else gets to a certain age, and they've got kids and all the rest of it, and it's just like, they're not doing that anymore.
I was in the airport with a guy that was sitting opposite his family, and he's like, God, if I could do it all over again. And his wife was glaring at him
Can you
across the
imagine?
seat like, motherfucker.
That is the number one thing to avoid is like regret when you're older. Like do it now. Get like max it out. Classic saying, life is short, but if you do it right, once is enough.
Yeah.
I don't know if that's the exact quote, but you get the gist. So if you know, I'm sure the Rolling Stones and people like that could probably attest to that.
Absolutely.
I
still
pick up
kicking.
on it. I lived my 20s and 30s pretty hard. So.
Yeah.
This is the
We were
mellow
just talking
me.
about that this morning.
Yeah. I started in the booze industry when I was 29, 30, part time. But if I continue on till I'm 40, that'll have been quite a pickled 30s.
Right. All right, so what do we want to do in this segment? You want to go back to Jen on this one?
Do you want to
Yeah,
do,
road
do you wanna
parties.
do maybe like a little
Road parties
road
and
parties? But again, maybe we'll do a cocktail. That's a good soundbite for when you're talking the ice clinking in the glass. And
that
then,
is always fun.
yeah, I think we'll do a cocktail and talk about maybe we could
Talk
do
about life on the road.
The travel, life on the road as a traveling.
And then we can also delve into smoking and toasting, the
Yeah.
history.
Sure.
That'd be great. We can interview you.
Okay.
I like the sound of that.
Okay.
Well, man, I was when I was a kid.
You see, what had happened was way back when. Okay, we're ready when you are. I love that sound. Welcome back to
So good.
Smoking and Toasting, the show about craft beer, craft liquors, and fine hand-rolled cigars, brought to you by B&B Butchers here in Houston and also in the shops at Clear Fork in Fort Worth, Texas. We're here with Mattias Horseman from Hendrick's Gin, who is currently mixing up the cocktails, and David Allardice from Glenfiddich, and we're going to talk about love and life and drinks and stories from the road, life on the road. This all sounds like a good time.
Oh, it's going to be
What
wonderful.
are you making over there?
We're going to start off with a little something fun. We were serving this yesterday, and I whipped up some this morning in the hotel. It's a wonderful cucumber basil smash. It's a perfect thing. You know, I think the joys about gin, like we were talking about before, is that it's already got such a great flavor. And so to use something as a base like that to create an amazing cocktail, it's just, you know, money made in heaven right there.
You're not from around here, are you?
Not quite.
You said basil.
Basil, yes. Basil and tomato. Yeah.
We're in Texas. We say basil.
You know, my little cousin's actually, his name is Basil, and his younger sister name is Peach. So I'm very happy to have a family that's as outdoorsy as my cousins.
I love that you include a cucumber in everything. Now, last time I saw you had this incredibly huge, inefficient cucumber slicing machine.
The gin and tonic machine, yes, that was definitely a fun one. I love that thing.
No. It was the traveling cucumber slicer.
Oh, the Grand Garnisher.
Yes,
Oh,
the Grand Garnisher.
It's like, oh yeah, the other cucumber machine.
Cucumber machine we have. Yes.
No, not the one that you can carry. The one you have to drive.
Yeah, the
and then
driving one,
operate
that's
with
great.
a bicycle.
That's actually coming back around the U.S. this year, so it's going to be across the.
That thing was a blast to watch. So I went to an event, and I can't remember which bar were we at. It was over in the Heights,
Worcester's.
yeah.
Was it Worcester's Beer Garden? I think.
Maybe, yeah, that sounds right.
Yeah, we went to, there was a Field and Tires and B&B Butchers and all of them. They were fantastic.
So I pulled in, me and my wife pulled in, and it wasn't hard to find you because this thing is giant. Like, it's the size.
I believe the word you're looking for is grand.
Yes,
actually.
thank you for
Grandiose.
This is
Yeah.
grandiose, yes.
Yeah, the Hendrick's Grand Garnisher. What a lovely machine, traveling around ridiculously inefficiently at speeds of 25 miles an hour. Slicing cucumbers at a little slower speed, but you know,
It's
it was
pretty.
absolutely
It
fantastic.
is fascinating. It's a little bit of a Rube Goldberg style machine. It's
It
just-
was, yes, but you know, sometimes the best things in life take the most time.
Right, and it's so entertaining to watch.
Cheers to that.
And cheers.
There we go.
Back to the cucumbers. I love this.
Yeah, you know, it's. I always like to think of stuff as a base. You know, we look for balance so much in cocktails as brand ambassadors and bartenders. Sometimes we forget to look for balance in ourselves. So to use something like this, I love to make lemonade at home, just fresh lemonade, and I'm sure down here in Texas you guys make lemonade all the time, right? Whenever I'm doing it at home, I often throw in some cucumbers and some basil leaves overnight and just leave it to sit.
I bet that's good. I've never thought
it's
of that.
amazing. So in the morning, I wake up and I have a wonderful thing of cucumber basil lemonade.
This is delicious. What exactly are you mixing this with?
That's funny you asked that. That same cucumber basil lemonade that you can just make at home by throwing in a couple leaves and a couple slices of cucumber to a thing of fresh lemonade, you can just add Hendrick's and serve it over the rocks.
Nice.
Yeah, it's nice to just use something like that has a dual purpose, But I think that's the fun aspect of gin season coming up here in the summer with the warm weather. It's going to be lovely.
Yeah, gin works really well with a lot of summery drinks, I have noticed.
It really does.
I think of it that way.
If you think about it, I think it's a lot more to do, from the philosophical perspective. You have a combination of botanicals from all around the world in here. And what's better than sitting with people from all over the world in one room drinking?
Absolutely.
And it's the same aspect of botanicals coming together, just as people coming together. That's why I love gin with people.
So in an interesting aspect, because we also talk about cigars on this show, one of the things I've noticed about gin, being either martini or mixed drinks, those kind of things, gin has an interesting flavor where it doesn't necessarily go with cigars, but it doesn't interrupt any cigar. So in other words, I guess it does kind of go with every cigar almost, as long as what you're mixing it with goes with it.
Dave and I are actually real avid cigar smokers, and we enjoy a good couple every month when we're back in Chicago, sitting outside in the summer.
Shout out to Mikey, Alec Bradley.
Yeah, there we go, Mikey, a good guy. And at the end of the day, we're sitting there, and I think you're right. Gin does go with it. It's about telling that untold story of that partnership that's what it's about. So to find the right cocktails, like this, actually, a beautiful thing before you have a cigar, that's going to be a beautiful kind of like foundation from which to have that gorgeous light floral sort of, maybe like Monte Cristo No. 3 or something like that after this would be gorgeous.
Oh,
but
man.
as you move into that Martinez, a Martinez with this nice Robusto cigar, my God, you could not ask for a better pairing than that. And that's basically, if anybody likes Manhattans, try a Hendrick's Martinez.
See, what we're talking about right now is a future show.
There we go.
Yeah, and I'm just thinking,
Maybe outdoors this summer. Oof.
we need to have a quick pit stop. We need to take cigars to Food and Wine.
Sounds good to me.
Totally forgot.
Absolutely.
There you go.
Rookie move.
I got some in the bag.
You're already prepared. Awesome.
Legend.
So you guys spend a whole lot of time on the road in this job as
we
a
do.
brand representative.
Yeah, it's
Can we talk about your March?
oh God, yeah. March was a fun month. People often ask, "What does it mean to be a brand ambassador?" And they say, "What's your job?" And often we look at them and we sort of, we're out drinking and we sort of gesture to the bar and we say, "Well, this relationships, right?" Yeah. But March was definitely an interesting one. I hit 7 states, 5 countries, traveled over 20,000 miles. I had 17 flights. It was a fun month.
That's in 1 month.
1 month from March 1st through to March 31st. Yeah.
Wow.
Or 30. How many days are in March? I have no idea. Lost track of days in the
I
end.
hope you can sleep on an airplane.
It's actually wonderful. It's a good time to relax, get some work done, chill out, meet some interesting people. I had the most fascinating discussions with people. There's 2 ways you can travel. There's the people who get very irritated and they're like, "Come on." And I'm like, "Man, we're all going to the same place."
Right.
At the end of the day, there's no point in rushing.
You can't hurry this plane up.
And so, by doing that, it really does add up to a wonderful journey. And the experiences I had over the last month, I mean, I wouldn't trade that for anything. We were talking about it before, and at the end of the day, when you're looking at it, in 20 years, I get to say, man, I went to some pretty interesting places.
Yeah, if you can remember half of them. We go to so many places, and actually on this
Start blurring together after a while.
this is the exact reason that I started a YouTube channel pretty much exactly a year ago. I got to my 5-year anniversary with the company, and I thought about it. I was like, wow, I have been to a lot of places, done a lot of cool stuff, but I don't really have a documentation of it, so I can look back and truly, because to your point about 20,000 miles in March, like that's insane. That's not a normal month. But by the time you've finished with a trip to here and a trip to there and the next trip, you don't get that time. When you go, most people go on a vacation.
Right.
You get the appreciation that sinks in. It's a memory that's always
You get a little
there,
time to absorb
right?
it. And
When you're going back to back to back, it all blends into one. So you really kind of lose a lot of memories that way. literally, and just from the nature of the job, late nights and everything, but also just from the fact that you're doing so much.
Yeah.
So I decided I was going to make this vlog. That's not really a vlog. It's kind of I just record stuff, edit it, and whatever comes out. It's not really that structured, but it was so that I could look back and get a little flavour and a little taste of where I've been, what I've done.
You know,
Because sometimes just to jog your memory, like, oh yeah, now I don't remember.
exactly.
Yeah.
And I think I'll do a toast to you for that, because the candid nature of your videos are fantastic.
Yes.
Like just showing people's true sides, showing the actual nature of things. When you start staging stuff for video, it can get a little too much.
Yeah.
But
Thanks.
Cheers to you. So here's to the nights that you'll never remember, but the friends you'll never forget. So I think that's a good one.
That's a great way to put it
That's
too.
good.
There we go.
Cheers.
He's got away with words, this one.
Well, for those of you who are listening, if you want to ever follow along, my Instagram is the Bar Poet.
The bar poet.
The Bar Poet. Yeah, I love
Bar
that.
poet.
Yeah,
And I'm Dave Paradise with a C.
Dave Paradise. So you can do a Paradise Friday. Is that what you're calling it?
Fiddick Friday, actually.
Fiddick Friday,
It was hilarious. I checked into the hotel yesterday. I'm right across the street from the Astro, so I kind of got woken up last night by the fireworks. I had an early night last night, tried to, but I checked into the hotel and the radio was already on, and it was this radio show that was called Science Fridays, and I thought that's cool. But they were talking about animals that fart and animals that don't fart.
Wow.
The important thing.
And as it turns out, that sloths don't fart.
Wow.
Neither do birds.
Interesting.
Sloths actually, their excess gas comes out through their mouth. So Science Fridays, it's a whole
Listen, everybody. This is what the show's about.
there's a whole show out there called Science Friday. You should check it out. It's really interesting.
I love it.
So what happens is, as you're traveling from time to time, when you're stuck in a hotel room, you get a little bored. So you actually are a DJ sometimes, right?
Yeah,
Well, you're a DJ all the time, but sometimes you do DJ work.
my obsession with life is music.
Awesome.
Way more so than whiskey. Like whiskey, I love. I'm very passionate about it, and I love to learn about it. But there's a time and a place for drinking alcohol. Music is anytime.
Nice.
And I guess you could say there's a symphony of flavour going on in every glass too. So
Yeah,
tie the two
again,
together.
he's got away with words. But yeah, I started DJing. I moved back from Holland to Scotland in 1997. Made friends with Andrew Begg. Shout out to Begg. Saw his DJ set up at home. Instantly fell in love with it. I was like, I want to do that. That Christmas, asked for a set of second-hand turntables. That's what I got. And started buying vinyls and started DJing, and this was just over 20 years ago. So I'm obsessed.
Fantastic.
I'm
so
obsessed.
I've actually seen you DJ before at the end of the Whiskey Social event. You did the after party.
Remember the visuals, the whole
That room was amazing.
insane.
So we walk into this room. It looks boring. It's way too overlit, and it's just this big empty box, right, with nothing on the walls. It's just what's going on here. And it's tall too. It's huge, like
50 feet.
right. And so I'm just wandering around the room, and all of a sudden, the lights go down a little bit, and then every single wall is covered with
Is it Star Wars or?
movie images, just random things going on. So they're projecting on all four walls at the same time. I mean, you're surrounded by this.
Wow.
That was a cool visual. And when the DJ started,
amazing.
It was like a curved wall as well.
Yeah.
So you felt like you were in some studio or
right,
something.
so it's completely peripheral.
Yeah, so we still need to go back and do another party there, by the way.
Yeah, and when the music started and everything, that with the music was just a blast.
But Ian came up to me with a classic pro tip, and I had no idea he had an audio background, right? Like the way he does. He's
Sorry about this.
He's deep, and he comes up to me. Don't apologise. I learned something really interesting. He's like, "Hey man, like we love the music, but we kind of want to talk as well. Here's a little trick." And I'm rolling my eyes at this point, because I'm like, it's almost to me
literally rolling his
like
eyes.
somebody coming up and saying, "Oh, this music sucks. Can you play something that I can dance to?" Right? But anyway, as soon as he started talking, I was like, this guy knows what he's talking about. He says, just tweak the mid-range down. So usually on a DJ board, you'll have the high, the mid, and the low.
Yeah.
He said, just cut a little bit of that mid-range out, and then you still hear the music at the same level, but that is the frequency of our voices, and it allows it to cut through, and we can actually listen to music and talk.
Mm-hmm.
Wow.
It was brilliant.
That's a fantastic tip.
And what's interesting about that is you can actually pull the music up a little louder at that point, because all good parties should be a little loud. Like, you should have to lean into somebody to talk to them at a good party, but you don't want to have to scream in their ear and they're still going, what?
No, respect. That was a pro tip. Thank you for that.
I'm glad you appreciated that. I hate to be that guy, though. Sometimes I feel like, but I can help.
Yeah, exactly. And you should.
If I didn't know you, I probably would have never said anything, but thanks for putting up with that.
Pro tips from Smoking and Toasted. I love
I
that.
know. Listen, you've got. I mean, how long have you been in audio?
Well, I've been a musician since I was a teenager, just about.
Right, same.
I started teaching guitar when I was a teenager, and I've been doing that ever since. And then I've been in the music business, doing one thing or another, bands and whatnot, ever since. So, and now I build and repair and play and all kinds of stuff with guitars. So
Cool.
Fantastic.
that's pretty much where I started with. We're going to take a short break. We'll come back. I believe that these guys want to gang up and interview me at this point in time.
Yeah.
That's going to be awkward. I don't know what I'm going to say.
Can't wait. All right.
We'll be back with Smoking and Toasting. This show just
Sloth
is-
bot.
Mate, I was sitting there, and I swear to God, it was so fascinating because they were using the word fart over and over. And I was like, is this like some sort of comedy sketch? And I listened to it. It was on for like 20 minutes, and they were just going into detail on insects, birds, sloths, and then they were given a reason why these things fart or don't fart. And apparently, sloths, if the gas stays in their system long enough, it will kill them. So
Wow.
they actually is not able to pass through the system to where they can expel it.
Jesus.
Yeah, there you go.
Wow.
deadly
Fascinating.
farts.
I don't know if you're ever going to be able to pull that up into conversation.
Oh no, this is coming up at some point in time when I'm
You
drunk.
never know.
I
Yeah,
promise.
yeah. That's great.
And usually at the worst possible time.
Gonna go
Yeah.
do some research too and be
Like when the camera's rolling.
That's one of those conversation bombs I like to throw in once in a while.
Yeah. Oh, by the way, did you know?
Like when I walk into a room and people are talking, I go, man, I got a 5-inch taint. It's awesome.
Mic drop. Oh, fantastic.
So how long have y'all been friends?
Year and a half.
Know each other.
Year and a half. I just came on board with Hendrick's a year and a half ago, so that's probably when I met you.
It's just over 6 now.
How long have we been friends?
Oh, well, we're friends. I thought you were talking about how long you started.
No, yeah.
Y'all seem like I've known each other for longer than that.
Yeah, it's funny because
Seems like a lifetime.
well, we've spent a lot of time together, but there's certain people when you meet them, you're friends instantly.
For sure.
That's how it was with us and with a few of our colleagues, because I suppose it makes sense. You're getting into an industry that you're going to be quite like-minded,
Yeah.
and then you live this unique sort of lifestyle that not a lot of people can relate to. So you have that bond. Yeah. And then things where you're on the road, like this week we were staying at the same hotel. We're both on the road for 5 days together, doing separate things, but there's a lot of overlap. Someone just sent me. Have you heard of Outside Lands?
Yes. We actually do their RFC. We do their live broadcast.
No
Nice.
way.
Yeah, we do their live broadcast.
That's amazing.
The festival.
Yeah, for the festival.
Fuck. So I just got a text saying, "Do you want to go to this?" And I was like, "I'd love to go to Napa, but I wasn't planning on going to Napa for a festival."
Yeah,
But
yeah.
yeah. I mean, I heard good things about it. So, and they do a wide range of different music. So.
But you don't get
I've
to
never
go.
been, so I've never been, so I don't know. But I mean, I know we do their live broadcasting here. We stream it and all that.
Cool. So what RFC, where's that being broadcast to then?
Well, so we do all of our on internet streaming. We mainly just we build stations for independent companies like Specs and NASA and stuff like
Gotcha.
that. But we also do live
And NASA?
broadcasts. Yeah, we do their radio for them.
If you ever stop at a Time-Wise gas station, you're listening to one of
Yeah,
their...
we build the radio, but we also work for TuneIn, which is an app.
Yeah, yeah.
TuneIn, and TuneIn is actually the one who collab with these.
Gotcha.
that
So
we do their,
you're the middleman.
Yeah, we do it for them. We do all the inside work,
Right.
and they just like kind of.
Oh, interesting. That's cool.
Guys, got one more in you?
Yeah.
What do we want to do in this one? Do you have more mixed drink ideas? You guys see you have
I've
two more
got
whiskeys
plenty.
here.
I could do another one. We could do 2 more if you want. Fuck.
I don't know what all we want to fit into one segment here.
We can do a drink each.
I would love another cocktail.
You want to work on
Yeah,
the next
gotcha.
drink?
So good.
Those cocktails, I wish I could
take
slam them
advantage of
down.
being here, so.
I'll leave you guys some too. So I brought an extra literally to give you. So
Yeah, all of this whiskey's staying here as well.
Oh, you guys rock.
Yeah.
I don't have to share it with
I
Cruz
was hoping to
either.
bring some- I'm just kidding.
Yeah, we can get more tonight at the.
Oh, we got plenty where all this came from.
That's awesome.
So yeah, I would love to figure out to hear the backstory of smoking and toasting.
Yeah, I think we can use development as a theme here. We'll develop on all the stuff we've told you, and then in a liquid form.
All right.
And then you can tell us the backstory of you.
All you got to do is lube me up. I'm ready to go. Wait, let me say that live.
You got the? Can you pass me? Can you pass me that teacup or the empty glass? Either one.
See what happens?
There you go, champion.
You guys are making it way too easy. This is like my first time to do a show without Cruz.
Here's an extra glass if you need it.
Hosted by the co-host.
You wanna go ahead and run it? You ready?
I'm ready as soon as you are. All right, I love that music right there, by the way. The Suffers, we saw them. Me and Cruz and both of our wives went and saw them at the Woodlands Pavilion with the orchestra. That was pretty amazing. So, all right, so we're back here with Smoking and Toasting. This is a show about craft beer, craft spirits, and fine hand-rolled cigars. We're here with Mattias Horseman from Hendrick's Gin and David Allardice from Glenfiddich. And Mattias Horseman is making yet another cocktail.
Just
What
a
are we
couple,
making?
couple for the morning. This is great. I think, we were talking a lot about today about using a great solid base. And the key thing is, if you use a solid base for things, then you have the potential to grow infinitely. So we started off with that beautiful description of just a regular cucumber basil lemonade you could make at home. Then you can make a cucumber basil smash with Hendrick's Gin and your fresh lemonade. And then obviously now I wanted to sort of develop on that further. So whether or not we wanted to make something really complicated or something just very basic, this is pretty much exactly the same thing, except instead of any simple syrup, we're going to be using a little bit of a fresh raspberry syrup, and then we're going to top it with a little bit of ginger beer. So we have Hendrick's, fresh lemon juice, raspberry syrup, and ginger beer.
It sounds so soothing.
There's so many amazing cocktails, and if you want to go to hendricksgin.com, you can find infinite amounts on there, which is great. But for now, we're going to just enjoy this. So I'm going to keep whipping these up while Dave pours some more whiskey.
Yeah.
So yeah, you brought a few different things with you. We tried the IPA cask finish. What are we trying next? Trying as in,
That is the sound.
I love that sound. by the way.
I got to give a shout out to the guy that I report to, Michael. He is primarily responsible for the concept of this whiskey that we're drinking now. This is the Glenfiddich 14-year-old, and the cool thing about this is that it's aged in a slightly similar way to how American whiskey is. Bourbons are always aged in brand new virgin American oaks, and in Scotland we tend to use the used barrels after you guys have used them. But in this case, we've used the used barrels to age this whiskey for 14 years, and then to put a little bit of a twist on it and inject a little bit more vanilla and sweetness to it, we've transferred that aged whiskey into a new American oak cask for about 4 months. So it's a new oak finish.
And you can see by the color profile in that it actually has a little bit more of that darker.
It's American oak. The color in whiskey doesn't always tell you a huge amount, but if you have a whiskey in this kind of color, like more golden, it indicates American oak aging. If it's quite dark, it will usually indicate European oak, so typically a sherry cask. But the other cool thing about this whiskey is that it's only available in the United States, so it's a real exclusive for this country, and you can't even buy it in Scotland. So if you're ever travelling to another country,
Bring some.
$50 for that bottle. It's an easy gift to take to someone overseas that they can't actually buy.
Nice. So I misspoke earlier. I said that we were talking about the 14. We were actually talking about the 15 when we had that conversation.
Okay, yeah.
At the bar. So, which, by the way, I'm running a little bit low. I got about a third of a bottle left. I noticed that the other evening when we talked about doing this. It's getting close to time.
Cheers.
Cheers.
Cheers. May our glasses run low, but our hearts never be empty.
Oh man, that guy always knows what to say.
Yeah, that's the truth. So,
That's delicious.
That's amazing.
we spoke a little bit about Hendrick's history. Glenfiddich, the history goes back to 1887.
Mm-hmm.
Let's learn a little bit about the history of smoking and toasting.
The history of smoking and toasting. I was born. No, I'm not going to get that far back.
We don't have that much time.
Yeah, tedious detail for every year. No, so smoking and toasting is so this was Cruz's concept, and I knew nothing about this. I've never done radio before in my life. I have no idea how the thing works, except for I talk into this mic, and eventually you guys get to see it and listen to it. And I've never been on that side of it. I've done some interviews here and there, but what happened is Cruz and his wife, his girlfriend at the time, I've known her for years, Mary, and we've been friends for years and years, since sometime in the 90s-ish, early 90s-ish, and always got along, love her to death. And when she started dating Cruz, she goes, you and your girl need to come over and hang out with us. We need to do dinner. You're going to love the guy that I'm dating. I was like, okay, we'll try it. So we get over there and we're having dinner. We're having a good old time, and I meet Cruz. I think I've met him in passing a couple times. He's been a radio personality for years and years, and I've met him in passing, I think, a couple times, many years ago. Not enough to remember each other, but so anyway, we sit down and have dinner, and after dinner we step out onto his little balcony that he has out at his place, and light up a cigar and grab a beer, and we just start talking. We start talking about, oh, you like this? I like cigars like this, and I like beers like this, and we just go back and forth. And had a great time. Stayed a little bit too late, drank a little too much, went home. So a little while later, a couple of weeks later, Mary calls me up, and she goes, hey, you guys want to come over for dinner again? I'm like, oh, okay. So we do this twice. And actually, I think we went out for dinner that time. We did this twice. And then she calls me up. This is about a month or two after I met Cruz. She calls me up and she goes, hey, we'd like to invite you guys out to dinner at the Foundation Room, and we got a question for you, but I can't tell you what it is. Bye, click. I'm like, what? That's bizarre. I don't know what's happening there. So we go have dinner, and we're sitting there and talking about cigars and drinking beers and having a good old time. And Cruz goes, hey, got a question for you. I said, okay, shoot. I don't know what's going on here, but I've already been primed. And he goes, so, when we get together and talk, we have this kind of thing, this kind of thing back and forth where he goes, this is just a radio show.
Yeah.
Like, there's no reason for this not to be a radio show. And I never would have even guessed this. Like, this isn't even on my radar as something that I do, or would even consider until he asked me. And so he looks at me and goes, we're probably not going to get rich doing this, but we will get samples.
There you go.
And I said, you know what? I'm in, damn it. And so it's hilarious because I was so nervous on the first show, and we weren't even doing video then. I was so nervous on the first show. I had no idea what was going on, what we were doing. So we come in here and into this very studio, and we start doing the first show, and it's goofy. It's hilarious. When you listen to me, I have no idea what I'm doing. I caught on pretty quick. But let's fast forward a little bit. So we were struggling at first to try and get some people in here for interviews and stuff. And we got a little bit of funny reactions from people. We had a few people who were like, well, who have you had on your show, and why should I show up, kind of reactions. And so we were having a little hard time. And then I had a friend of mine working at Goliad Brewery at that point in time. He's been on the show about 3 times now. His name's Mark Nichols. Great guy in the industry. He's working with New Republic Brewery now, and they make fantastic beer. But anyway, I called him up. I said, hey, you guys, would you be interested in coming in and doing radio program with us and, kind of check it out. He said, sure, I'll come down there and do it. So he was actually our first guest in here live on the show. And then sometime within the next month after that, through whatever bizarre fluke happened, we ended up with this guy from Glenfiddich on the show.
Really?
And he was, as we consider this, our first really legitimate brand ambassador we had on the show for a big brand. Not
who
just
that?
a local.
I don't know who it was.
Don, Dave, something. No, it's this man
Amsterdam
right here.
Sam,
Amsterdam Sam. I love that. But David Allardice comes walking to the studio. And so by this point in time, I'm feeling kind of comfortable with this. And he's sitting out there, and he doesn't know what to think. He's sitting on our bench in our tiny little lobby there and looking around. I go introduce myself, and he says hi, and he's being personable, but you can tell he's like, I have no idea what's going on here or what's happening.
That's a general look on my face.
I should have seen him this morning.
That's just the so anyway, we get him in here, and as soon as the show starts going and he sees how it works, he just lights up and really looked like he had a great time. I'm not saying he did, I don't know, but he looked like he had a great time, and apparently he had enough fun because he started telling everyone else at William Grant how much fun he had, and we started getting in other brand ambassadors, and this added a level of legitimacy to our program that got us to where we are now, where now we just keep building. Every week we do a show, and that's part of it. You were talking about your vlog that you do, every week, doing it every single week, no matter what, is the biggest thing, because that's how you get the consistency, and that's where we really started building our audience and building our reputation. I'm so happy about that.
Can I just add, by the way,
thank you.
Thank you for that story. I had no idea he was going to say that. Really? No, we walked in here this morning. I was like, "Oh, how did Smoking and Toasting start?" And you're like, "Oh, well, let's save it and we'll do it on camera." I didn't know you were going to say that, so I didn't prime that because you were going to talk about the time that we met. I had no idea.
I thought you'd appreciate that, though. And thank you so much.
Cheers. Well, it sounds like a lot of what you were saying is, cheers, guys. It sounds like passion was the biggest point in deciding that this is what you wanted to do. Right? Because you were just sitting there talking, and it was something that you just loved, and it just flowed naturally.
Yeah, and I think, too, that, between me and Cruz and the way we do this, our goal with this was to go, let's do a show that if you're in the industry, you would enjoy watching us. We're fun. We're having a good time. We're talking about stuff. But if you know nothing about this, you can still follow along. We're not talking so far industry-wise above your head or even, drink-wise. I'm in a club that brews beer from time to time. We're not talking about, other than what's on the bottle label. It doesn't matter what all's in it. Let's have fun. Is it good? Is it bad? Let's talk about the flavors.
Somebody said it before as well. Experience is the best way to learn. So all you're going to get here is a beautiful idea on how to go and experience something.
Right.
And then you can go do it for yourself. And you even said, you might not get rich doing it, but how do you really measure wealth?
Right.
Because this means more to me than $100,000 sitting here with you guys.
And so we have such a good time.
We'll go to $7,000 later. We'll go to $7,000.
I'll tell you what, I'll take the $100,000 and then I'll buy you lunch tomorrow. How's that?
And done.
Sounds good to me. Let's do that.
But no, so this was such a fun thing because you actually, due to you and your brand, you added a level of legitimacy to what we did, to where now when people were like, well, who have you had on the show? We had Glenfiddich. They're just bigger than you, sorry. In general, and I mean that in the most hilarious way, but it really stopped a lot of I wonder who these guys actually are. Do they have anything going on or whatever? So we've just been building ever since then and having a great time with it. Thank you.
No, it's great, and every time if I'm in the house when the show goes out live, I always tune in and comment and let you guys know that I'm watching.
I love that.
Absolutely, yeah, it's wonderful.
So we get if you guys are out there watching it, by the way, while we're doing the show, I usually have it on my phone and see the comments and try to put some stuff in there in between. Sometimes I'm more texty than others, but we always try to have a great time with it. And the other thing too is this is just a fun outlet to do this.
Yeah.
And the way we try to make this is so that when you guys come on here, you have fun.
Yeah, exactly.
That was our goal.
And listen, we're surrounded by bottles and good people, and we're about to to make a last toast, I guess, and head to more booze.
Yeah, no, it's definitely true.
The food and
You guys
wine,
got a full day going
food
on.
and wine festival. Yeah,
yeah, it's going to be fun.
it's gonna be good.
That was out in Sugarland, even.
Yeah, down in Sugarland, Food and Wine today. It's the Sip and Stroll today and tomorrow from 3 to 6.
Is it going to be in the town center there?
You know, they just switched venues. It's out. You can find it on their website for sure.
Gotcha.
All the details and stuff.
Fun.
And you can buy tickets from there. So
And are you setting up your monstrous? Is it a tent? Or
It's called the Dome, the
Dome.
Glenfiddich Dome, and it's all air conditioned. It's a great little, almost a retreat from the madness. Excuse me, the
Do you let
madness.
those Hendricks guys in?
we're around.
If they
You see, they're in an air-conditioned dome, but here in Texas, when it gets sunny and hot, I actually walk around with an umbrella and I throw shade in a very British way.
Yeah.
So while hand-delivering cocktails on a book, I have my umbrella, and you will not miss me around that festival for sure. I'll be
yeah, listen, the Hendrix guys, if they come up to us and they have a few refreshing cocktails, we might let them in.
Yeah. Well, I guess it's time for a last toast, right? I saw you looking at me before. I guess we should probably do something.
Yes, please.
You know, I live in Chicago, and so does Dave, and we come down here, and I realized it's actually, sometimes it's not the warmth of the weather that keeps us warm, but it's those that we hold close to us. So, here's to you guys.
That guy's amazing. Cheers. Cheers
Adam, here's to
and
you.
cheers. Thanks again. This has been Smoking and Toasting. We will see you guys next time.
Excellent.
That was awesome.
That was cool.
It was fun.
Thanks for making my first time alone easy.
Oh, there we go.
I didn't even feel lonely or nothing.
Yep. Just keep it flowing.
Oh, we didn't even get a chance to talk about this.
But what? We did.
Well, we did not after we tasted it.
Yeah, we talked enough about it.
Sometimes you leave them to taste it, and we talk about
Right.
But what you should do is,
aspects.
you should get some soda water and ice and take it home or whatever you want to do with it. But you should experiment with that. Get into the highballs, because most people, it's just such a basic drink. They're like, it's delicious.
And
Yeah, but with the soda water, you add the fizzy, so you add more mouthfeel,
yeah.
but you're not changing the flavor profile.
So I'll give you a little-
drastically.
If you want to definitely try the highballs for sure. Little tip for me, going back to his 15 year as well. Do it with the 12 or the 14, but then on the top, put a little bar spoon of the 15, just on top. Once it's